So this year we plan to discuss the 16th chapter of the Gita. In fact, Lord Krishna has completed the teaching in the 15 chapters. The 15th chapter was called the Purushottama Yoga, in which was imparted the knowledge of Purushottama, the most exalted person. And the conclusion was, Etad buddhva buddhiman syat krita krityasya bharata. He Bharata, he Arjuna, Etad buddhva, knowing this, knowing the self as Purushottama, as the most exalted. So what happened now?
Good. It is much better. Much better.
Huh?
A little bit closer.
Yes, closer.
Sorry, this people in the back.
No, I know. In fact, when I can hear noise, then they can hear. I was not able to hear myself. Lord Krishna concluded the 15th chapter, the previous chapter, with these words, Etad buddhva buddhiman syat krita krityasya bharata. He Bharata, he Arjuna, Etad buddhva, knowing this, knowing the self as Purushottama, as the most exalted person, as Purusha, as Purna, as complete, knowing the self as limitless, knowing the self as the self of all, knowing myself as one without a second. Krita krityasya bharata, one becomes krita kritya. One has accomplished whatever has to be accomplished in life. Meaning that by gaining this knowledge, one becomes a successful person in the true sense, where one has the total satisfaction of having done what needs to be done, having known what needs to be known, having achieved what needs to be achieved. And thus, Lord Krishna has essentially taught Arjuna everything that Arjuna needs to know. Then still we find the 16th chapter. As our Vijay said, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. First step is listening to the unfoldment of the scriptures from the teacher. That was Shravanam, listening. Mananam, reflection upon what it is that I have listened to. Even after doing all of this, if the knowledge does not take place, meaning that I do not have the sense of fulfillment. After knowing what I understand, there is some obstacle, some inhibiting factor or obstacle in my own mind that prevents me from making this knowledge a reality in my life. Even though I understand everything, and still I do not seem to have the benefit. I understand that I am limitless. I understand that the reality is one without a second, is non-duality. And still it does not seem to really bless me. I do not seem to be able to derive the benefit of this knowledge. That is because there is some obstacle. And that is the lack of maturity of mind or lack of purity of mind. Vedanta talks about the adhikaritva, the fitness of the student also. And fitness is in terms of a state of mind, the preparedness of the mind. So maybe the mind is not as well prepared as it should be to absorb this knowledge, to assimilate the knowledge, so that the knowledge becomes my own self. And that is the impurity in our mind. Bhagavad Gita presents a very beautiful analysis of our mind. And this was done earlier in the 14th chapter. It was explaining how our mind is made up of three gunas or three dispositions: sattva, rajas and tamas. Where sattva means purity, rajas means impurity, tamas means darkness or dullness. Each one of us has a combination of all these three. When the mind enjoys the disposition of sattva, then I feel very happy with myself. Then what is best in me automatically manifests: my kindness, compassion. Those tendencies or virtues are called the divine tendencies. Devi sampat are the divine virtues, divine tendencies. My mind, on the other hand, when it is controlled by rajas, impurity, then there is restlessness in the mind. I find a lack of concentration, lack of focus, mind gets distracted, it runs away, there is extrovertedness. There is also a craving for happiness, craving for pleasure, craving for accomplishments, craving for achievements. That's the quality of rajas. On the other hand, when the mind is predominant in tamas, there is darkness, dullness, and sometimes destructiveness also. Sattva, rajas and tamas. You also say that it is the disposition of sattva which is compatible to the taking place of knowledge, sattva sanjayate jnanam. When the mind enjoys the quality or disposition of sattva, purity, tranquility, that is conducive for the knowledge to take place. On the other hand, when there is rajas, then there is attachment, craving, greed, restlessness, activity. When there is tamas, there is dullness of the mind, inability to grasp, inability to retain, which means that for gaining this knowledge, the mind should enjoy the disposition of sattva. All of this also was briefly mentioned by Lord Krishna in earlier chapters, where Lord Krishna used the expressions Devi Sampat, Asuri and Rakshasi. These three words were used. So those who enjoy Devi Sampat, Lord Krishna says, they are my bhaktas, they are my devotees, and they worship me all the time, thinking about me, singing my glories. That is the trait of a person enjoying the sattvic disposition of mind or enjoying the Devi or the divine virtues. In a person, predominant in Rajas was described Asura as a demon, and person with predominant Tamas is a Rakshasa. Deva, Asura, Rakshasa. So Lord Krishna again takes up that theme more elaborately in this chapter to make a point that we should cultivate the Devi Sampat or the divine virtues. Each one of us has this divine virtue in some or the other, more or less or more measure. At the same time, we also have some demoniac tendencies also. That is because of ignorance. We are born ignorant. And under influence of ignorance, we very often abuse our free will and do things that are not right for us or for others also. So because of that, the Rajas and Tamas, the Asuri and Rakshasi, the demoniac tendencies also have entered into my mind. So right now my mind is a combination of both these kind of tendencies which Lord Krishna in this chapter described as Devi Sampat and Asuri Sampat, the divine virtues, the divine tendencies and the demoniac tendencies. What is necessary is that our mind should enjoy the Devi Sampat or the divine virtues, which is when this knowledge can take place and which is when we can benefit or get the reward of this knowledge, which is when we can enjoy the freedom and happiness which is our nature, which is the goal of our life. So along with Shravan, we should certainly be devoted to listening to this teaching from the teacher and studying, reflecting, contemplating. We should be doing that. But at the same time, we should also be devoted to cultivating this divine tendency, divine virtues, which is when the Shravanam, Mananam, they become more and more effective, more and more rewarding. Sometimes the importance of this is not well recognized by people. That along with the Shravanam or listening to the teacher, that we should also be constantly working upon ourselves with our mind and attempt what we call the maturity of the mind or cultivate the divine virtues. We should be doing that. That mature in the mind does not automatically take place, unfortunately. It has to be initiated. We have to work for it. Oh, Puja Swami used to say that when an organism is born, then the physical maturity takes place by the act of nature. That is, when a human child is born, it will grow. If some undesirable things do not happen and it survives, then the body will grow, body will become mature, they will start shaving, will be ready for marriage, and everything will happen automatically. This is the physical maturity. When it comes to other living beings, the living beings other than human beings, such as animals, or any other plants, trees, insects, in all of them, the emotional maturity also takes place along with the physical maturity. Meaning that they also become emotionally mature when they become physically mature. And by emotionally mature, we mean a person behaves according to what he or she is supposed to behave. So a cow behaves as a cow. There is no such thing as an immature cow. That cow doesn't know what I should eat. Then instead of grass, the cow starts eating meat or something like that, flesh. It doesn't happen. We find that animals, as an example, always make right choices. They do what is right for them. They follow the very harmony or order of the creation. Meaning that they are always in harmony with nature. They do not violate the nature. They do not harm the environment. They are in harmony. Thus, that is called emotional maturity, when I am in harmony with the order of things. All creatures, other than human beings, are programmed to be in harmony, and therefore the emotional maturity takes place along with the physical maturity. So they don't have to be educated into what they should eat, what they should not eat, what they should do, what they automatically do that. Human being seems to be an exception, where emotional maturity may not necessarily take place along with physical maturity. Meaning that it is possible that in the body of a 50-year-old man or woman, there can be a 15-year-old person within emotionally. And therefore a person can behave in a very strange manner and display the moods, the emotions, impulses that a 15-year-old child displays. The child throws away things that he doesn't like. If you give one candy and the child asks for another candy, if he doesn't get that second candy, he throws the first candy also, because he didn't have his way. When this fellow grows 50 years old, then also he seems to show similar traits. That because he did not get promotion, his colleague got the promotion, he did not get the promotion, he throws away, he resigns the job. So sometimes we find that people do not grow and they still are controlled by the impulses. We can understand that a child is controlled by the impulse. Even a young man will control by the impulse. But a grown, mature, physically mature person also behaves the same immature way, an impulsive way. There is anger, there is jealousy, there is aggressiveness, insecurity, fear. That shows lack of emotional maturity. It can also be called the lack of the purification of the mind. And a person having those kind of impulses cannot be a happy person, unfortunately. Regardless of what other accomplishments I may have, I may be a person having a lot of wealth or fame or power, but if I do not have the emotional maturity, when I am liable to be controlled by my impulses, when I get hurt very easily, I need to control, I need to dominate, I need to have my way, I cannot bend down, I don't have flexibility, then I am a person who is very unhappy within myself. And therefore, for a happy or successful life, not only do we need the accomplishments at the worldly level, which are done by intelligence, which are by our skills and by other worldly capabilities, we also need the emotional maturity or the inner purification of the mind. This is a very important point that Vedanta makes. That not only do we need the means of happiness, such as wealth, such as fame, such as power, we also need the capacity to enjoy what we have. It is not enough that I have ice cream in front of me or good food in front of me. But I should have the capacity to enjoy that I'm listening to music, but a capacity to enjoy that music also must be there. And that capacity we have to cultivate. It is not it's not enough that I am limitless by nature. It is that you are limitless, I am limitless. This is what our Viditatmananda, the very purport, the very basic vision that the Upanishad provides is that you are ever free, you are whole, you are complete, you are limitless. That's what you and I are. But very often we are not able to enjoy the benefit of being limitless. And that is because of that lack of emotional maturity or lack of the purity of mind. Here Lord Krishna explains that how all the kind of tendencies are there in our mind. We have, of course, the divine virtues, but we also have the demoniac virtues, and these fellows constantly fight. In the Puranas, we hear the stories about the battles between the gods and the demons. In all cultures, I guess there are stories like that. In fact, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is imparted in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In the context of a battle where the two armies are arrayed against each other. One army is the army of the Pandavas who stand for dharma, the virtues. Other is the army of Kauravas where Duryodhana, the leader, stands for adharma or violating the virtues. So force of dharma and adharma, righteousness, unrighteousness, or what you may call the divine and the demoniac tendencies, there is a clash between these two. That's what the Battle of Mahabharata also displays symbolically. And a battle like that is also going on in our own heart. You can say that our own mind is like the Kurukshetra, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And there also these tendencies, the Pandavas and Kauravas, the Devatas and demons, divine and demoniac tendencies are fighting against each other. Unfortunately, again Upanishad describes in some place, Dvayaha Prajapatyaha, Prajapati has these two kinds of progeny, the Devatas and Asuras. But of them, usually, these Asuras, the demoniac tendencies are greater in number and more powerful. And the divine tendencies usually is fewer in number and perhaps less powerful. Something like what was demonstrated by how the Pandavas had a smaller army and the Kauravas had a much larger army. But we have to win this battle. Therefore, the human life is meant for winning this battle, overcoming those demoniac tendencies and establishing the victory of the divine tendencies. As ultimately the Pandavas won the battle over Kauravas. Of course, the factor that made all the difference between victory and defeat was Lord Krishna. And the leader of the Pandavas was Arjuna, leader as far as the battle is concerned. He made the right choice. This Arjuna and Duryodhana, both of them were in the presence of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna gave them a choice of either choosing him, that is Krishna, who will not wield the weapons, who will not fight the battle. On the other hand, the other choice was his well-equipped large army. And Arjuna made the choice of having Lord Krishna on his side, knowing fully well that wherever Lord Krishna is, there the victory will be. Even Sanjaya, who is a reporter and who has reported the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, also concludes the very last verse, Yatra Yogeshwarah Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijaya Bhuti, Dhruvanite Matirimama. Says Sanjaya, Yatra Yogeshwarah Krishna, where is Lord Krishna who is Yogeshwara, the Lord of all the yogas and yogis, and where is Partha, Arjuna wielding his bow, that is where the victory is. Thus we have to have this combination in our life also, of Yogeshwara Krishna and Dhanurdhara Partha. Therefore, we require to cultivate deliberately and diligently the Devi Sampat or the divine virtues. When we become the recipient of the grace of the Lord, which is how we win the battle of this life, and therefore, having completed the 15th chapter, Lord Krishna sees the need of describing to us this Devi, divine, as well as the demoniac tendencies, so that we recognize both of them, and where we find in us a demoniac tendency called Asuri Sampat, then we should be conscious, alert, diligent in removing that, driving away that tendency and replacing it by the divine tendency. And for that, we should have the acquaintance of both the divine as well as the demoniac tendencies, the Devi Sampat and the Asuri Sampat. Thus in the 16th chapter, Lord Krishna describes both this kind of tendencies, in which we will find that the divine virtues are described in the first 3 verses. And essentially, the rest of the chapter is devoted to describing the demoniac tendencies. Because that is what we need to understand very clearly. We need to understand both of them clearly. But these divine virtues have been described earlier also in a number of places and summarized here also again. But there has not been much opportunity to describe the demoniac tendencies. And therefore, Lord Krishna takes the opportunity to describe them also in detail, so that we can spot those tendencies if they occur in our mind, and alertly we can diffuse those tendencies, displace them, replace them with the divine tendencies. So that task or that work has to be done constantly. We have to be constantly conscious about the various thoughts and tendencies occurring in our mind. We should identify what that thought or tendency, which category it belongs to, which it is what we call the Devi Sampat, the divine tendency. Then we should nurture it, nourish it, cultivate it, nurture it, nourish it, make it strong. And we find there is a asuri vritti or the demoniac tendency, then we should be right away neutralizing it with the opposite. And this task has to be done constantly. Meaning that even as we are living our life, interacting with the world from morning till evening and doing various activities, and really interacting with the world, it gives us a good opportunity. Because the world has an uncanny knack of pushing our buttons. And therefore, very often we find these tendencies arising in us which we never even expected. I did not realize even I can behave like this. This kind of thought can come to me also. So when the water is very calm, it looks very pure. Only when you throw a pebble in there and all the dirt from the bottom comes to the surface. Similarly also, when we function in the world, perform our duties, play our roles, that is when, if these demoniac tendencies are there, they all surface. And thus we get an acquaintance of our own mind, and objectively we can deal with them. So that is the purpose of describing both the tendencies. This is called the Dayavasura Sampat Vibhagayo. This chapter shows the Vibhaga division between the divine tendencies and the demoniac tendencies, where the tendencies arising from Rajas and Tamas are lumped together and called the Asuri Sampat. The tendencies arising from Sattva are the Devi Sampat of the divine tendencies. So with that introduction now we can go to page 7. And as we do every year, since these chapters are pretty long and we have very short time, only 4 evenings, we cannot do justice to all the verses, but then we maybe select verses which help us discuss all the important topics of that chapter. Meaning that by discussing these verses, we will get overview of the entire chapter in the relatively short time that we have. So let us read the first three verses which go together. Shri Bhagavan Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti Dhanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodha Tyaga Shantirapaishunam Daya Bhuteshvalo Luptvam Madhavam Hrira Chapalam Tejah Kshamadhriti Shaucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. I'm sure you know that these handouts are made for everybody. They are all available at the counter. So in case you don't have, you can get your copy. It's a good idea to have it in front of you so that when we discuss these verses, then you know what is being talked about. Because as you can see here, we also have given the word meaning, and those who may not be able to read the Devanagari, we have the transliteration as well. Sri Bhagavan Vasa, the Lord said, if you look at the verse number 3, the second line, the reason why we read all the three verses together is because the verb which concludes the sentence occurs in the third verse. Bhavanti sampadam daivim abhijatasya bharata. He Bharata, O descendant of Bharata, hai Arjuna. Bhavanti sampadam daivim. Daivim sampad bhavanti. This divine nature happens. Divine nature is found to be there. Abhijatasya, in the one who is born with these tendencies. Meaning that it is quite likely that a person is born with these tendencies. So one who is born with these divine tendencies, we find all these virtues in that person. The good news is that each one of us has these virtues. And even the better news is that the core person that we are really is this divine person. So the divine tendencies which are outlined in these first three verses, in fact, describe our true nature. What we call the core person, that is what we are. Abhayam, fearlessness, Sattva Samshuddhi, purity of the mind, Jnana Yoga, avoidance and knowledge as well as yoga, and everything else that is described, all of that happens to be our nature, and that is the core person that we are. But then what about the tendencies that are going to be described in the other verses? Dambho, Darpo, Vimanascha. pretentiousness, pride, arrogance, harshness. So all of these are also described, they are called the demoniac tendencies. What about them? Then says that they are not our nature. All these demons are intruders. The devatas are residents in our heart. The demons are intruders in our heart. But sometimes these elements intrude even in our home sometimes if we do not recognize them for what they are. And if we are not very careful in perceiving, not careful in choosing, it's possible that we may also give place to wrong people in our life, in our home also. And similarly also, on account of not understanding the realities of life, not understanding what it is that I want in my life, not understanding what is helpful to me and what is hurtful to me, not realizing this, I have inadvertently allowed these negative or demoniac tendencies to intrude into my mind and even take hold of my mind. So if we find our mind being governed by these demoniac tendencies on occasions, it's only because of lack of our own discernment or viveka that we allowed them to take hold of our mind. In fact, now they are ruling our mind. These divine tendencies are relegated there, sometimes exiled even. You find that in the battle of devatas and asuras, the devatas are driven away from the Swarga and they are in exile. Like Pandavas were driven away, they were in exile. Sometimes you find, and the demons are ruling. Even if this is so, the good news is that that is not our nature. They are intruders and therefore they can be driven away and they should be driven away. In the earlier talks we are given the example of a piece of sandalwood of which the nature is fragrance. Fragrance is the nature of the sandalwood. But that piece of sandalwood is left in water for a period of time. Sometimes that external surface becomes rotted and it starts stinking. So we have a stinking piece of sandalwood. Fragrance is the nature of sandalwood and we find it to be stinking. Is it that the sandalwood is now changed from a fragrant to a stinking piece of wood? Answer is no. Even when we find the sandalwood stinking, inherently it remains only fragrant. But we have to do something. We have to rub that piece of sandalwood against a stone to remove that external surface and then the fragrance becomes manifest. Similarly also the sting that we may find in our own self, in terms of anger, greed and other tendencies that we described here, all of these are because of the contact with water, with ignorance, with aviveka, with non-discrimination. So we need to rub it. We need to remove them to make our fragrance or divine tendencies manifest. So that's the good news. And very important news. Because sometimes we ourselves have concluded, I am no good Swami. I am an angry person. I am greedy. So very often we entertain these kind of complexes about ourselves and we become depressed. So at least we can remind ourselves that even if I find myself to be an angry person now and then, that is not my nature. Compassion is my nature. cruelty is not my nature, kindness is my nature. We can take solace from that, comfort from this understanding. So that then we have the confidence. Confidence because divine tendency happens to be my nature. It has to assert today or tomorrow. That is what the Upanishad says, Satyameva jayate nanritam. The truth alone wins, falsehood does not win. Even though in the battle between truth and falsehood it may look like the false is winning and winning and winning, in the battle between Rama and Ravana may look like the Ravana is difficult to overcome him. But someday he will go. Someday the demoniac tendencies will go and the divine tendencies will prevail. Except that it requires a battle. It requires a combination of Yogeshwara Krishna and Dhanurudhara Partha. What is meant by Arjuna wielding the bow is Arjuna is striving constantly, making an effort, Purushartha. And then he has help of Prarabdha also of the Lord. So again, with that introduction, so that is why we read 3 verses together, because the 3rd verse says that all these tendencies are found in a person born with divine nature, or they will be ultimately found in the person who has cultivated the divine nature. Of them, in the very first verse, the first virtue that Lord Krishna mentions, Abhayam. Bhayam means fear, Abhayam, fearlessness. So Lord Krishna says Abhayam or freedom from fear should become virtue. Because fear is almost woven into our nature. If you observe the nature, if you observe the birds and animals, you can see that they are constant in fear. Fear of their life. Always looking around to make sure that they will not be attacked by somebody, because it is the survival of the fittest. So first fear is the fear of death. Because there is a natural love to live. We love existence, asti, bhati, priyam. We love to be. So existence, to be, to live, there is natural love for existence because that's our nature. There is natural love for knowledge and intelligence because that's our nature. And natural love for happiness because that is again our nature. So whenever these are threatened, then there is fear. This is our nature. And existence is our nature. When there is threatened, then I feel threatened, which is when there is fear. Happiness is my nature. When there is threatened, again I feel threatened. That's when there is fear. So this fear is almost woven into all activities in our life. We may not be even sometimes very conscious about it, but sometimes it is there in the background and very often governs many things that we do. So fearlessness, Lord Krishna says, that is the virtue that we have to cultivate. There are various kinds of fear. Fear at the level of body, fear at the level of mind, fear at the level of intelligence, fear at the level of ego. At all levels of a personality, the fear can be there. Of that, of course, the fear at the level of body is the most predominant fear. That is the fear of death. But not only fear of death, fear of old age also, there is a fear of old age because old age is considered to be sort of a pilot of the death. And fear of disease or pain also because we like happiness, not pain. We like health, not disease. We like to survive, not death. We like youth and not old age. We like energy and not weakness. So fear of death, fear of old age, fear of disease, this is built-in fear. And we have to confront the fear. Very often the fear is there and we are afraid and we do not challenge that fear, do not confront it, or we do not understand the fear also. It's just because there is uncertainty in life. We do not know what the next moment will bring because we do not call all the shots and we don't know what there will be next moment. That's no good, isn't it? It is so nice would it be if you knew everything about what's going to happen in future. I don't know. Is it nice that we do not know what the next moment will bring? Or would it be better if we knew what the next moment would bring? I don't know. I do not think that we would necessarily be happy if we knew what's going to happen in the future. I think Ishvara has that what he has done is all right. It's better that we do not know what is in future. Then you can always hope for the better things. If you knew what's going to happen, it will, even if it will lose all interest and all excitement in life. And maybe cause further fear, oh, what is going to happen to me? So uncertainty brings fear because we have natural love for security, natural love for well-being, natural love for happiness, and we are not sure whether that will be there or not, whether this happiness will be snatched away from me, fear. Whether health will be snatched away from me, fear. Life will be snatched away from me, fear. So we have to educate our mind. Lord Krishna gives a very nice formula in the second chapter. Tasmada pariharyerthe natvam shoshitu manasi. Here, Arjuna, it is not proper or not right for you to grieve for something that you cannot control. Meaning that there are certain realities of life that we cannot change. And there is no point in grieving about something that we cannot change. It's going to happen. Lord Krishna gives an example, Jatasya dhruva mrityuhu. Death is certain for the one who is born. Night is certain when the day comes. Heat follows the cold and cold follows the heat. This wheel constantly goes on. The situation is never the same. And thus niche gachati uparicha dasha, sometimes it goes down, it goes up. This is the way life is. That's how the realities are. But Swamiji, I want to know what's going to happen. You don't know and you will never know. You can go to astrologers and try to get some comfort from them, but I wish you good luck with her from the astrology. But still, you don't know whether the astrologer knows or not. You don't know. And therefore, uncertainty is a reality of life. We accept it. And if next moment is uncertain, all right, but this moment is with me, so rather than worrying about what I do not know, rather than worrying about what I do not control, why not I pay attention to focus attention on what is and what is in my control, what is in the present. So we have to train our mind to focus on what is. That death will come someday, nobody can avoid it, but right now I am alive. Do I have to really squander the joy of being alive in the fear of the death that is going to come in future? Or, as they say, celebrate the life, celebrate the present, whatever it is. You are alive right now. What if I die? You don't know. But right now you are alive and enjoy that fact. What if I can't walk? But right now you're going to walk, you're going to talk, you're going to do what you're going to do. Meaning that if there is cause of fear for what I may not have, then equally the cause of celebration for what I have. It has just become our habit to keep on worrying about what I do not have, keep on worrying about what will not be, and not pay attention to, and not adequately appreciate what is or what we have. And therefore, fear, if we pay attention to uncertainty, and even uncertainty also is okay. The problem is that I am not willing to face unpleasant. I want everything pleasant all the time. I want to have things always in my way. I am not willing to have things which are not favorable to me, not pleasant to me. Now there is something that I cannot control and nobody can control. Said about Lord Rama, he also did not know what was going to happen the next morning. In the evening he was told that next morning there was going to be a coronation ceremony, he will be coronated as a crown prince, and next morning he was coronated as a prince of forest. Even he doesn't know. But of course we are not Rama. It did not matter to him. Prasannatam na gata abhishekatah tathana mamle vanavasa dukhatah. Saint Tulsidasi describes that when Lord Rama was told that he was going to be coronated next morning, he wasn't elated or overjoyed. He took it in his stride. And next morning when he learned that he has to go to forest, he did not get depressed at all. He was free from harsha and shoka, the reactions of elation and depression. Meaning that he was pleasant and cheerful and happy. Only because his happiness did not depend upon whether he has the kingdom or not. Because his happiness depended upon himself, and therefore whether something is there or not did not matter to him. Well, we also to move in that direction ultimately. And more we depend upon other things for our happiness and security, more insecure we are going to be, and more fearful we are going to be. So we also have to discover that security and happiness from where it belongs. By cultivating this divine tendency, we discover the happiness from our own self or security from our own self. But then we have to educate our mind, train the mind to be prepared for what comes. Let's go prasada buddhi. Whatever will come, I am willing to accept it as prasada or the gift or blessing of the Lord. With this no shraddha or the trust in Ishvara, that he is my well-wisher and therefore whatever he will do will be only for my well-being. If he does something unfavorable to me, that also will be ultimately for my well-being. With that shraddha, being prepared to accept whatever comes in future as a gift of God, including the willingness to face unpleasant, will relieve us from the fear. Because unwillingness to accept the unpleasant, we want always the pleasant, we want always the favorable thing. We always want things to be favorable to us. Mind be ready. Things can be unfavorable. That doesn't mean they're wrong or they're bad. Thus, when the fear arises in mind, first of all, we have to understand why is the mind afraid? What is that is projecting? What? Swami, what will happen if I lose my job? What about my responsibility? My family? That's it, he can't sleep at night. So let's suppose you lose your job, what will happen? Will you go to prison? No. Will you become beggar? Not really. But Swami, then I can't live in this house. Then what will you do? You go to an apartment. Can you do that? I can do. I can't afford this big car. Can you use a small car that I can have? I can't have this job, but can you work in McDonald's? That I can do. You will survive. Meaning that if we really stretch our imagination and take the worst case scenario and present before the mind, what if we find that even the worst case scenario also we can survive? And so if the mind is worried about something that can possibly happen in future, let the mind imagine the scenario and let it stress what happened, what will happen, what will happen. And you'll find that you can survive. You can deal with it. Human mind can develop comfort with anything. I mean, you know so many people living in slums, and with what kind of thing they are living, in course of it, develop comfort with that. Even we ourselves were 25, 30, 50 years ago, we were quite different from what we are now. We didn't have that kind of prosperity. A lot of discomfort in life. A lot of, scarcity was there. Many of us grew in scarcity. It was all right. And so we are hardier than we think we are. So let the mind see this fact. And that's how when the fear comes, confront the fear, understand the cause of fear, and recognize how it has become a habit of the mind not to confront fear, not understand it, and just remain afraid. When you understand the fear, fear will slowly dissipate. This abhayam. Also, there is a great sage whose name was Bhartrahari. He says that there is always fear when there is attachment. It is attachment that brings fear. So the attachment to the beauty brings fear of old age. Attachment to life brings fear of death. Attachment to money brings fear of the income tax people. Attachment to your scholarship brings fear of the people who will debate and who will, debate with you. And anything, bhoge, roga, too much indulgence in pleasure also brings fear of disease. Bhoge, roga bhayam, kule, chuti bhayam. Too much pride about my lineage and always brings fear as to maybe I may do something which is not becoming of me. Vidde Drupalad Bhayam, too much attachment to our wealth brings fear always to the king, or those fellows who may take it away from you, because kings will always go to these wealthy people. When they are in need, they will take away money from them. Mane Dainya Bhayam, too much pride, is always fear of being humiliated sometimes. And so on and so forth. So Jnane Vada Bhayam, too much attachment about my knowledge, always fear that somebody may defeat me in debate. Sarvam Vastu Bhayanvitam Bhuvidranam says everything is fraught with fear. Everything. Meaning everything can become the cause of fear if there is attachment to that thing. Is attachment which is cause of fear? What is attachment? Attachment means my notion that I cannot do without something. When something becomes very important for my happiness or secure well-being, then I become dependent, and then there is a fear of losing that. So, look, when the fear arises, ask the mind, where is the attachment? There's something you don't want to let go, something you want to hold on to. What is it? Are you able to let go? Are you able to give up the hold? Just understand the cause of fear, address it, and resolve it as it arises in the mind. Abhayam. Next one is Sattva Samshuddhi. Says, Shankaracharya explains here, purity of mind. Here it is described as purity of intention. There are intentions be pure. Whenever we communicate, whenever we interact with people, let our intention be free of fraud or trickery or falsehood or dishonesty. Sometimes outwardly we are very pleasant, but inwardly we may not necessarily be so. As Vijayji said, the expression is walk the talk. So talk all right, but they may not be walking the talk. So sattva samshuddhi, when my talk and walk are in harmony, meaning there is a harmony between the thought and the word and the deed, that is called the purity or straightforwardness of the mind. Purity of intention, honesty of intention. Meaning that we should be aware of our intention, not just the action, not just the word, but the intentions behind using the word, intentions behind the performance of actions, and whether intentions are honest or not. Honesty or purity of intention. This is the second value, sattva samshuddhi. Purity of mind is a very general thing, but in this particular case, is explained as the purity of intention. And it's always good to always be aware of where am I coming from? Where is the person coming from? Where am I coming from? Meaning, what's the intention behind what I'm saying, what I'm doing? It is not what I say is important. It's the intention with which I say that is more important. And that determines really the quality of my mind. Sattva samshuddhi, purity of intention, honesty of intention. Jnana yoga vyavasthiti. Jnanam, vyavasthiti, persistence, abidance. In jnana and yoga, two words are used. Jnanam is knowledge and yoga is putting that knowledge into practice. Meaning that there should be a constant commitment for jnanam, or learning, understanding, gaining a knowledge. At the same time, assimilating that knowledge and making the knowledge my own nature. That's called yoga here. So jnana yoga vyavasthiti, a persistence, a constant attempt of learning and growing in keeping with that learning, a value for learning and growing in simple terms. Or jnana yoga means abidance in knowledge. So gaining knowledge and abidance in knowledge, or learning and growing along with that learning. So in this manner, Lord Krishna describes a number of virtues in these 3 verses. We'll continue our discussion tomorrow and then continue with the following verses. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo